I'm sure a lot of you have been looking forward to this one. We're going to create a Flappy Bird clone. So really this is an opportunity to see how you can create games on Android, and Flappy Bird is a relatively simple game to create. If you haven't heard of it, it was released in 2013 to the frustration of many iOS users because it was fiendishly difficult at the same time being very simple. It was very popular, and actually there's an interesting story behind it about the developer actually removing it from the App Store because of all the criticism that he got because people found it so difficult to play. But anyway, you can go away and Google that if you want to find out more. I just want to show you very briefly how the game works. So here's flappybird.io. You can go and have a look at it now, and this just shows you an online version of the game, which is pretty similar to the one that we're going to create. So you press, there we go. I didn't even get past the first tubes. You keep pressing or clicking on the screen to keep Flappy moving up and down. And then the idea is that you've got these randomly positioned pipes. Hey, got past one. Which then you have to get through, and obviously if you hit the pipes you die. So it's very simple, but it will allow us to see all of the basics of Android game creation, how we can do collision detection, have sprites animating around the screen, etc, and scoring, of course, up there. So it should be a lot of fun. We're going to start by downloading libgdx, which is a open source gaming library, which I'd thoroughly recommend if you're going to be hand coding games. It's actually cross-platform as well, so you can build not only Android apps, but apps which work on Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS as well. So it's a really good system to learn, but we're still just using Java, and we're very much creating a native Android game here. It just gives us a lot of features that we would otherwise need to code ourselves on the Android system. So if you haven't already, go to libgdx.badlogicgames.com and then click download, and then download the setup app. I'm just going to save it right there on the desktop. It's just a small little Java application. Fortunately, you already got Java installed because you've got Android Studio up and running. So you should just be able to tap the downloaded file, and then you'll get this. So this allows you to set up your app. So let's call it Flappy Bird. And then package, remember, is something like com dot and then your name or your company name, and then the app name, so Flappy Bird. And game class can be whatever you like. It's just the name of the class. I'll call it Flappy Bird, and then you just choose where you want it to appear. And then to get the Android SDK path, we can actually get that from Android Studio. So just load it up and click Tools, Android SDK Manager, and then right there at the top is your SDK location. So that'll be very similar to this if you're on a Mac. It'll obviously be something different if you're on Windows. So just copy that and then paste it back in. And then I would just stick with whatever the latest version of libgdx is. And we only want to develop for Android here. So to simplify things, I'm going to get rid of the other three. There's lots of support online for other platforms if you want to start developing for those as well. But we'll stick with Android for now. And all the other options I just keep to the default and click Generate. Now you'll likely get this message. You have a more recent version of Android build tools than the recommended version. I would definitely go for yes there. And similarly, yes for the using the more recent Android API version. That'll just mean that it's easier to run in Android Studio without doing any tricky alterations on the app. So this will then generate the app for you. And there we go. That's done. Build was successful. That's sounding promising. So now we just go back to Android Studio and open that in the usual way. So over to desktop, and then let's put it in test for some reason. Oh well, that'll be fine. And then choose that. And in this video, we're just going to go as far as having a quick look at what it actually includes and what we get if we run the default project. And then we'll actually start building Flappy Bird in the next video. So here we go. Let's have a look and see what files we've got. So straight away, you might notice some differences here. There's no res folder that we're used to. We do pretty much everything in Java. And here is our Flappy Bird class, which looks a little bit scary compared to everything that we're so used to. We've still got our create method, which, as you can imagine, runs when the app is run. And now we have a render method as well, which is what we'll mostly be coding in. The render method essentially gets run again and again and again. So you can think of it as an ongoing loop, and that's where we'll put our code to animate our stripes, to do our collision detection, and everything like that to see where the game actually works. So we'll keep it on the same emulator I had open. Just for convenience, there's no need to do this in API 21. It'll work fine in API 22 as well. So we've got a few new classes there as well. We've got sprite batch. You can maybe imagine that that's essentially a batch of sprites that's then processed to the screen. And we've got textures, which are basically images that we work with, and think of them as sprites as well. So like the Flappy Bird will be our first texture or sprite that we're going to work with. So all this does, it creates a new sprite batch called batch, and then it creates a new texture on image, which is from the badlogic.jpg file. Then it creates a background color, which I think is red, and then it draws the image at position 00 and then ends the process of drawing the batches. So we've still got our past geo points from Uber displaying merrily there. So let's take a look. So the output is simply that. So first off, notice by default that we're locked into landscape mode. So 00 here is you can think of it as the bottom left, really, even though it looks like the top left. If you rotate that round, it would be the bottom left. And so we've got this red background and the Bad Logic logo there as well. So that's it. We've now set up GDX and we've got the code that we need to get our app working. And we're going to start in the next video by changing the background and displaying and animating our little Flappy Bird sprite. Should be fun. See you there.